You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. We got an amazing new poll about President Trump we're going to get to in just a few minutes. This is amazing news. No matter what they do to this guy, they arrest him, put him up on fake charges. No matter what, he's stronger and more popular than ever. And this new poll is the most amazing poll I've seen. Even all the polls have been spectacular, but this one is really good. We're going to get to that in a bit. Now, this morning on the morning show, I interviewed the great Kari Lake. And that was an absolutely amazing interview. And I just want to tell you guys a couple things about that interview because it's kind of a funny thing how I did it. But how that interview came to be, which is kind of a big deal, I was called by Kari Lake's representative and asked if I was interested in interviewing Kari Lake. That's a big deal, isn't it? Pretty cool. And boom, it was and it happened right away. But I was going to do it live, but I couldn't get her live on the show this week because she had some prior bookings. I couldn't get her live. So I did it recorded, and I recorded the interview yesterday. And the thing is, I had to record it at 9:30 in the morning. And I was done in the studio, and I was going to record it in the radio station studio, but Kari Lake had my cell phone number to call for the interview. So I said, well, I could, and I tried to get, I didn't realize this until about 5:30 in the morning. And I was like, well, it's too early. I can't, who am I going to call at 5:30 in the morning to give a different phone number? So what I did is I have a portable digital recorder that I use often for the podcast. Kathy and I are using it right now. We use it for the podcast a lot. Sometimes we podcast in different areas. I take this with me on the cruise and stuff. And I had the digital recorder, and I actually recorded that interview in your Mini Cooper, Kathy.
That's right.
I was in the car, and
it's a perfect recording studio because it's small.
You couldn't tell I was in the car.
It's got
at all,
good acoustics.
No.
It's a tiny little car.
No, it does have good acoustics.
It's awesome.
But the reason I did it in the car is I had to do it yesterday morning at 9:30. I had somewhere to go, and it was a bit of a drive from the radio station. So I did it in the car, and I had her on my cell phone. And since she only had my cell phone, I had her on speakerphone on my cell phone, holding it up to this microphone I'm talking into now. And you would never know. You would never know. But I was very, very impressed that they called me and asked if I was interested in interviewing her. That
She's
blew me away.
She's always a great interview because she is extremely confident, articulate.
Absolutely.
And doesn't hold back. She tells it like it is. She's honest. And I think you've done a lot of interviews. I think interviewing her is one of the best interviews you've ever done whenever you interview her because she's such a great interviewee. She really is.
Well, when I have an interview style that's a little different. Now, if I'm interviewing someone that I don't agree with, I talk to them like I talk to the liberal callers. You know what I mean? I go after them. I'm in for the, I'm going for it. When I'm interviewing someone that I got a lot of respect for and that I agree with, I do the opposite of Sean Hannity.
Well, that's what they do in the media.
I ask them a question, and I shut up until they're done talking. And sometimes they go on for a while, and I can tell sometimes when I do these interviews, they're not used to that. And what happens a lot of times, and this is what I think Hannity does, you see Hannity do this a lot, especially when he's with Trump. A lot of people, when they're interviewing famous people, like Kari Lake and others, they want to impress that person with their knowledge, and the interviewer does all the talking. And my thought on that is I hate when I watch Hannity and others do that, and I figure all of you guys hear me talking all the time. So when I have an important guest on like that, I talk very, very little. Right. And you do good interviews. And I think that makes for a good interview. Now, if you've heard me interview like liberals and things like that, it's a whole nother ball game. There's a lot of talking going on there. But I was very honored I really was, that they called me and asked if I was interested in interviewing Kari Lake. I said, are you kidding me? Of course. Okay, so let's get to this poll. This is an amazing poll. And when I first share it with you, you may not understand. But when I explain to you my thoughts on this, you'll be like, oh, yeah, you're right, Brian. Listen to this. This is in the Daily Mail. Panic for Democrats as new poll shows Biden would lose to Trump if a third-party candidate enters the 2024 race. A new poll showed a third-party candidate would siphon enough votes off Joe Biden to elect Donald Trump the next president of the United States, should that scenario come to pass in the 2024 elections. The numbers are freaking Democrats out, okay? And I'll get into some more detail of this. The reason that this is a major, major thing is because we have a third-party guy. He's not yet, but he very well could be, Robert Kennedy Jr. Robert Kennedy Jr., he did an event yesterday. People were lined up, man. People were lined up.
Yeah, he's becoming a big player in this.
Well, I got to tell you, I would not vote for Robert Kennedy Jr. unless he was running for Trump's vice president, okay? But if he were coming, like in our neighborhood, I'd go meet the guy and take a picture and shake the hand of the son of Bobby Kennedy and President Kennedy's nephew. I mean, there's come on.
Let me ask you a question.
Of course I would do that.
Say the only scenario where Trump would do a third party is...
No, it's not Trump doing third party. If
the therd party comes in like Robert Kennedy. It'd be another Ross Perot, but it would benefit Trump.
No. Yeah, it's Republican nominee Trump, Democrat nominee Biden,
and then
any third party candidate, third party candidate, because the never Trumpers are going to vote for him. The never Trumper Republicans, and
be interesting,
and a lot of Democrats. And I think it is highly likely that Robert Kennedy Jr. will be a third party candidate.
I love that.
So let me
get Ross Perot in reverse.
That's right. Let me get back to this. The nonpartisan group No Labels is looking at running a third party candidate should Biden and Trump be their respective parties' nominees. Biden is expected to easily win the Democratic nomination, and Trump, even with his legal issues, leads in the polls in the GOP race. Their survey from Data for Progress released Wednesday showed that a third-party candidate from No Labels would do enough damage to Biden to bring about a Trump victory. Okay, so what Kathy said about Ross Perot is where I was going with this, okay? This was amazing. Bill Clinton, a lot of people don't know this, Bill Clinton in 1992, when he ran against George H.W. Bush, did not win the majority vote. In fact, I'm going to be, 1992 was a long time ago, guys, okay?
Yeah,
so,
30 years ago.
So my memory is a little sketch on this. Goodness. However, Bill Clinton received somewhere around 35% of the vote. Somewhere around. Yeah. I don't want to say an exact number. I could probably just look it up. It's probably on Wikipedia. I'm not going to look it up.
Split the conservative.
Well, so what happened is this. And I did not realize this until recently. I learned about something that made me realize what was going on. George H.W. Bush, when he ran for re-election, people don't remember how popular he was. The Gulf War I was a very popular war. It was over quick. And at the end of the Gulf War, which was like a year before, the presidential campaigning and all that, George H.W. Bush had a 91% approval rating. 91%. That may be the highest approval rating of any president ever.
It was seen as a successful war because they captured Saddam Hussein.
No, they did not capture Saddam. That was the second one. The first one. The first Gulf War, 1991. And
when did they capture Saddam Hussein?
That was in the second one. That was with George W. Bush. But when H.W. was running, when that campaign started, he had a 91% approval rating, which may be the highest approval rating of any president in history. If it's not, it's not been that high since for any president. It's an amazing number, right?
Yeah.
So how did a guy with a 91% approval rating, like a year later, lose the presidency? The third-party candidate of Ross Perot. And Ross Perot was running. I voted for Ross Perot. It was my first presidential election. And I voted for him because when the Iranians were taking hostages, they took all those American hostages, they took some guys that worked for Ross Perot. And Ross Perot hired a retired Green Beret colonel and put together a team of mercenaries, and they went to Iran and rescued his employees, his executives. And I thought that was super cool. They made a movie about it. And I'd seen the movie. And I thought, well, that's super cool. If he did that, I mean, that's the kind of guy who went for president. So Ross Perot was running, and he was getting kind of popular and everything else. Then he dropped out. It was really weird. And then a short time later, he got back into the race, and he split the vote. He split the conservative vote. And if Ross Perot had not jumped in as a third party, Bill Clinton would not have been the president. It would have been H.W. Bush would have gotten a second term. And I didn't think about this too much until a couple months ago. I was watching a video on YouTube about the history of the war in Vietnam. So I'm watching this history documentary on YouTube about the Vietnam War, in particular the Tonkin Gulf incident, which the Tonkin Gulf incident was a big government lie that a U.S. naval vessel had been attacked by North Vietnamese ships, which they didn't even have ships. They had like gunboats, and they fired on this Navy vessel, and that's what brought us into the Vietnam War. It's a big lie by Lyndon Johnson. And I learned something about the Tonkin Gulf incident that I never knew before. And maybe you guys all knew this, but I did not know this till a couple months ago. And that's when I realized there was much more in play with Bill Clinton and H.W. and Ross Perot than we realized.
Yeah.
This ship that supposedly, this American naval ship that was supposedly under attack by the North Vietnamese Navy, total BS thing, they called in naval air support from an aircraft carrier to protect the ship. The squadron leader from the Navy ship that came in and flew the fighters over the ship for air cover for the fake attack was the man who went on to be Ross Perot's running mate, Admiral Stockdale. He was a commander, then he wasn't an admiral yet. So Stockdale was the pilot in the Tonkin Gulf incident. So what are the odds of this? So, and I realized when I see how closely Hillary Clinton is working with the deep state against President Trump all the time, that Ross Perot, Admiral Stockdale candidacy that gave Bill Clinton his presidency in 1992, that was a deep state operation. They were against Bush for some reason, HW. They wanted Clinton, maybe because he was easy to blackmail because of his sex, I
always
obsessions.
thought the Democrats put him up to it.
Somebody. And when I realized that Admiral Stockdale was involved in one of the biggest lies that resulted in tens of thousands of American deaths in Vietnam, the Tonkin Gulf incident, I was like, wow, there's something going on here. So anyway, a third-party candidate is something good. Now, the thing with Robert Kennedy Jr., I kind of like the idea of promoting Robert Kennedy as a third-party candidate. He's getting so much disrespect for the Democrats. Biden won't debate him. They're not treating him as a legitimate candidate. He's gaining in the poll. There's some polls that have him at about 20% now. Think about that. He's got numbers.
So what would he run as, an independent?
He could run as an independent.
I would love that. That would really shake things up, and I think that would ensure a Trump victory, because you would have a lot of old school Democrats.
That's right.
That would vote. And you might even have some conservatives. I've seen conservatives that like him because he's very middle of the road and he's very moderate.
We don't want conservatives to vote
No,
for
I
him.
know, but I'm saying, I'm not encouraging them to do that, but I'm saying there will be some that will, because he's more middle of the road on things. And people do feel a deep connection to the Kennedys, especially older people. And so I think a lot of people that are like my dad's age, boomers, in that generation, I think they would vote for him over Biden and possibly Trump, but mostly over Biden, because he's an old-time Democrat. He represents that old way of thinking, which is more conservative, more moderate. He's not radicalized. And I know they're going to try to trip him up on this vaccine. Nobody cares about that stuff, all that nonsense. Nobody's going to care about that. So that's going to be an issue that won't matter. But on other things, he does make sense. And Biden is such a disaster. People keep talking how he's going to drop out. Newsom, Biden is not going to drop out. This guy is never going to drop out. Okay, he's been a senator for 40 decades. He's been ensconced in Washington for 50 years. This guy, and I believe him and his wife hates his guts. I believe that. I've seen the way she treats him. They always talk about Melania. I've seen Jill on camera shuffle her husband around, and she is like so annoyed by him. I would be too. And when I see them together, I could just see it in her face. I think she is so over him. Maybe she was never into him, but I think now she is so over him and embarrassed by him and disgusted with him like the rest of us are. But I would love to see that he's not going to drop out. He will be the nominee, like you said. They'll give it to him. And I think RFK, if his numbers are rising, let me ask you this, Brian. Do you think people that are conservative should donate to his campaign? RFK, do you think they should donate and help him campaign?
As long as they don't vote for him.
Right, as long as they don't vote for him. So maybe if you're definitely going to vote for Trump, maybe you should send $10, $15 RFK and maybe help his campaign, because that does help them go up in the polls.
Well, see what it does, Kathy,
advertising and things.
Robert Kennedy, if he ran third party, he does a couple things. One, he splits the Democrat vote. And if we've got Robert Kennedy and Biden or any other Democrat, we're also going to split the never Trump or Republican votes between those guys. So it's a beautiful thing. And
is there a scenario where Robert Kennedy could win?
A third party candidate cannot win the presidency. It
First
would not.
Time for
it would not. No, it wouldn't happen
because like you said, you'd have never Trumpers. You would have people that are sick of Biden, and there might be enough moderates and enough people that are disillusioned with either guy that would vote for him. I mean, it could happen. It could happen.
No, the reason a third party candidate cannot win is because they have no organization around the country to get the vote out and to organize people. The most popular person to ever run a third-party candidate was defeated in humiliation, and Teddy Roosevelt. And he'd been president, right? He was very popular. He was, president. So no, a third-party candidate. Trump is the only one that would have a hope of doing it. Yeah. But anyone other than Trump, no. Now listen, we're going to take a quick break. Let us know in the comments, by the way, what you think about this. A third-party run for Robert Kennedy, I think, is a great idea to help Trump even more. We'll be right back.
How would you like to help solve a mystery? Then order your copy of Rock County's Unsolved Murders and Missing Persons from author Terry Garcia, now available on Amazon. This must-read book sheds light on unsolved murder cases and missing persons in Rock County, Wisconsin. But it's more than just a collection of stories. It's a mission to bring justice to the families affected by these tragedies. The author's hope is that supporting these families by getting their loved ones' stories out to the public can ensure that no one is forgotten. With your help, they may be able to find that missing piece of information that could lead to the case being solved and getting justice for the families. Rock County's Unsolved Murders and Missing Persons is available in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover editions on Amazon. This book is perfect for book clubs too. And make sure to follow the Facebook page True Crime 608, which is dedicated to the victims and their families of unsolved murders and missing persons. Most of the stories are from Rock County and Dane County, Wisconsin. Rock County's Unsolved Murders and Missing Persons from author Terry Garcia. Order your copy right now on Amazon. Are you ready to discover your true identity and step into your kingdom authority? Introducing Kings and Queens from evangelist, entrepreneur, and author Dominic F. Pugliese. This is a powerful new Christian book, and it's available on Amazon. With Kings and Queens, you will discover how to unleash the enemy's greatest fear by awakening to God's plan for your life. You are not who you think you are, and who others say you are. You are only who God created you to be. With Kings and Queens, you'll explore the truth that the Bible reveals. You are his chosen kings and queens, yet many of us live as mere commoners. With this transformative book, you'll discover your identity as a dearly loved child of God and experience intimacy with him and operate in the authority that he has given you as his kings and queens. Unlock the power of the kingdom as you partner with the forces of heaven to advance God's purposes on earth. Experience the encounter with the love of our Heavenly Father and embrace your true identity in God. Order your copy of Kings and Queens, available on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and hardcover editions. Who says you can't heal hunger? In Jojoema Sierra Leone, there's proof that healing hunger is not just a dream but a reality. Right now, a group of dedicated individuals have come together with a plan that works. Starting from one household, they're expanding their efforts to benefit the entire community. Their approach is unique, rehabilitating a plantation left to despair. But it's not just about revitalizing the land, it's about creating a how-to model that can help communities around the world. Using climate-sensitive technology and proven practices that actually actually work. They're healing people of the waste and malnutrition that comes from hunger and give them a chance for education and independence. By supporting this cause, you're empowering individuals to stand up for themselves and fight back against corruption, together breaking the cycle of survival mode and giving people the freedom to express themselves. This incredible group is looking for problem solvers, not complainers, and with your help, they can make a real difference across the planet. Healing hunger in one part of the world heals it everywhere. Join in saving this devastated plantation. Visit fundraiser.com/crops for Jojoima. That's FUNDRAZR.com/crops for Jojoima and help save a devastated plantation and revive the village of Jojoima. That's fundraiser.com/crops for Jojoima.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Okay, so Hunter Biden, this story today, this is how bad and sick and twisted Hunter Biden is, okay? Hunter Biden was a member of an elite LA sex club, SNCTM, but was kicked out for being a scumbag, says the founder. How scummy do you have to be a high-profile person who at the time is son of vice president, to get kicked out of a sex club? I mean,
Not only did he get kicked out, he got kicked out on his first night there. He got kicked out like right away. His behavior was so bad. Like within minutes of arriving, he couldn't control himself. It's not like he went a couple times. I think this is the same club Bill Maher's a member of. A lot of these rich guys are.
Why do you say that?
Because there was an article about Bill Maher being in a sex club in Los Angeles.
Ugh.
And I think it was the same one. I was reading this article. They were talking about the 5 guys that were in this submarine. And they said very wealthy men do these things, like go on these crazy expeditions and join these sex clubs or whatever, because they're really bored. And they said they have so much money, they can buy anything and anyone, that they do things that are risky, that are more exciting than they have access to things that the average person doesn't have. They take more risks, and they do it because really it's out of boredom. Because they can have everything at their fingers. Nothing is inaccessible to them.
Yeah.
But by the way, I wanted to about the submarine. They determined that the device imploded on the way down.
So they've been dead all along.
Yeah, which I thought because they lost communication very quickly, and that would be a better scenario than being trapped for days and suffocating. And they said the death would happen before you even knew what happened.
Yeah,
because the pressure would crush your body like a tin can.
Very
sad.
On this Titanic submarine story, the way the news behaved today was really twisted. When I'm doing my show prep in the mornings, I keep the TV news on in the background just in case. I want to know if anything breaks. I want to know. I'm going through I do my show prep online. I don't use television news, but I have it on in the background just in case. And the way that the news was handling this submarine story, because at 7 a.m. today is when they said they'd run out of oxygen. So there was a countdown. Well, we're 50 minutes away, and 1 hour and 50 minutes from now, they'll be suffocating.
Oh, my God.
And then there was a newscast right before. Well, it's 7 a.m. on the East Coast. They are out of oxygen now in the submarine, and that means they're suffocating. It was
That's pretty bad.
Weird. It was so weird.
They found the pieces of the machine about 1,600 feet in front of the bow of the ship. So they determined, and they had a really better person on the press conference today. They didn't have that Coast Guard guy that sucked. They had like an admiral in the Navy or something, or some higher up guy. And he said that
Coast Guard, I think, probably.
Yeah, maybe the Coast Guard. That the ship, what happened is on the way down, probably when they lost communication, there was a breach in the hull, probably through the window, and that it just instantaneously, there's so much pressure. He said it would be like, how they have those hard presses that you press down, those metal presses? He said it would be like that times 100. It would be absolutely instant.
So it
would crush your spine and your bones.
Oh, my goodness.
So there's no bodies. The bodies have been crushed and probably in pieces. I hate to say that, and disintegrated. But he said it's better than being trapped and suffocating. It's instant. They don't even know that it was going to happen.
So what was all this story of the banging they heard every 30 minutes?
They had I heard audio of the banging. They had it on social media. Somebody put the audio up there, and they had an expert on, and he said yesterday that is banging from pieces of the Titanic falling, which is interesting. That Titanic ship eventually will be completely flattened because the pressure is so strong on that. Shows you how well made that ship is, because it's still pretty well intact. But they said in about 50 years it'll be completely flat because of the water pressure. But he said pieces are falling off it all the time.
Yeah.
And plus it can pick up sound travels very well in water, and it picks up sounds from hundreds, thousands of miles away. So they said, plus I heard the sound, and it was like a consistent bang, bang, but it was like every 30, 40 minutes. And he said if they were, in the machine doing it, he said, I think it would be a constant banging until, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just sad all around. But these guys knew. I just feel bad for the 19-year-old kid, mostly. But they had one guy interviewed that had been on the ship last year. And he said they go over 3 days of safety protocol, and they let you know in no uncertain terms that you can die. This is very dangerous, he said. So there's no illusions here. He said when you go in that thing, you are briefed on every possible scenario that can happen. And these guys still do it anyway. It's crazy. That's what I'm talking about, these rich guys needing a thrill. And they still go down anyway, and it's scary when they go in that machine, they bolt you in, right? You're bolted in. That's it. You're locked in, and they have to unbolt you out. And I don't know anybody who would be crazy enough to do. I would love to see the Titanic, but I would never do that. I mean,
you'll see it better
watch it on
TV.
video, for goodness'
Exactly. So Colonel Vindman did something that was insane and really showed his true colors. He called a woman the B word. Let me get through this story. Trump Ukraine impeachment conspirator, Lieutenant Colonel, this is in the Gateway Pundit, Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman, retired, had a meltdown Wednesday night over the censure of Adam Schiff, who's a real snake, by the Republican-controlled House of Representatives over his lies and deceitful conduct of falsely accusing President Trump of Russian collusion. Vindman attacked Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy and Christina Wong, who's a reporter for Breitbart. He called Christina Wong the B word, and he wrote the whole word out. Vindman went off on McCarthy for his tweet announcing that the censure vote against Schiff would take place Wednesday. McCarthy wrote, Adam Schiff abused his position as chair of the Intel Committee to lie and lead America through a national nightmare with the fake Russia collusion narrative. As Speaker, I removed him from the Intel Committee, and now the full House will vote to censure him and open up an ethics investigation. That's what Kevin McCarthy tweeted. Vindman replied to that tweet with his own tweet and said this to Speaker McCarthy. You are pathetic in your deceptive efforts to damn and damage the valiant work of honorable men like Adam Schiff will bear no fruit. And before I go on, who the hell thinks Adam Schiff is an honorable man? I've never heard anyone.
He looks like a crazed.
He's insane
with those weird eyes. He just looks crazy.
So Vindman goes on. Let me start. So Vindman replies. He says, "You are pathetic in your deceptive efforts to damn and damage the valiant work of honorable men like Adam Schiff. Will bear no fruit. In 2024, you will be swept away and become a footnote entry as one of the worst speakers in the nation's history. You're not a tenth the man Adam is."
Oh, my God.
That's Vindman. So Thursday morning, Christina Wong, the lady Breitbart reporter, she was trolling Vindman and said, she tweeted this, "But you are twice the man Schiff is," like literally, because he's overweight. And
that's fine.
And let me tell you, I'm not making fun of somebody because of their weight issues. However, I thought the military had, when he came in, and I've never seen someone in the military like that before. So then Alexander Vindman responded to her. So she said, "But you were twice the man Schiff is," like literally, pretty clever stuff. Vindman responded to her and said, he used the B word, "Please."
Oh, that's a pretty
that's so gay.
Effeminate thing
that
to
is so
say
gay.
for a guy.
Guys, men. A guy might get into an argument with his wife or girlfriend and call her the B word.
Yeah, but the way he used the word when he said "bitch, please," that's a gay way.
But to casually use it is very effeminate.
Yeah, that way for sure.
Christina Wong of Breitbart noted that Colonel Vindman then blocked her. She said,
"My God, he's a real snowflake."
And then she tweeted, "Looks like he blocked me. Sensitive guy, isn't he?"
Yeah, he is.
Later Thursday morning, after all this happened, Colonel Vindman, retired, posted a comment over a pro-Schiff propaganda reel endorsing his candidacy for the Senate. Schiff, he's running for Senate.
Why do they keep electing this guy?
This is why Adam Schiff was impeached. He was and is masterful and will be an outstanding addition to the U.S. Senate. Please donate to a Senate campaign, tweeted Vindman. Since when is it okay for a man to call a woman the B word like this? And so publicly, where are the feminists? What about The View? Did The View? I didn't hear anything about. I didn't watch The View, but I think if The View would have called Vindman out, I would have seen it.
Conservative, that's why.
That's right, and it's okay to abuse conservative women. That's what I mean. It's if you're a conservative woman, you deserve to be abused. And let me tell you, I don't approve of people using that kind of language towards women. The Babylon Bee has the funniest video. It's about a man who was caught by his friends drinking Bud Light, and he insists to his friends that he's not gay.
Oh, my God.
It is hilarious.
The Babylon Bee is freaking awesome.
Oh, my goodness. It's so funny.
They come up with the funniest headlines.
Well, Bud Light started tweeting again today, like regular Bud Light commercials. They should just give it up.
I don't think there's any coming back from this. I think this will go down once I really feel this whole trans movement is dying down. There's a lot of backlash. There's a lot of people coming out talking about experiences, personal experiences, and it's not good. And I believe, not now, but years from now, when this woke nonsense finally ends, which I think it will, the culture will start to turn. This will be talked about in every marketing class for decades to come, because I feel I have like a fascination with businesses and marketing. I should have been a marketing major, but I really have an interest in that. This will be, to me, in the history of marketing, I think the biggest screw up that a company has ever made. I have never seen a marketing campaign backfire so fast and so colossally. And you made a point on the radio the other day, and it's so true, and we talked about this before. But before conservatives would like talk about boycotting things, but you never really saw the results of that, or it didn't seem like it did anything. Now, conservatives are really getting together and really boycotting things, and it's actually working. And I see this year more than any other year. You got Bud Light, Disney. If you look at the Disney parks, because Brian and I follow that, they are half the fullness they used to be, and I think it's a lot to do with their woke agenda.
And Disney just this week fired a black woman who was in charge of all their diversity stuff that's been in all their movies.
Target has lost money,
all their grooming stuff.
Yes, and you are now seeing what I believe is the beginning of the end of woke culture and the end of the trans push. You are seeing the end of these things, and I think by the next year, the year after. But once people see that their boycotts are effective, they do them more.
Yeah.
They do them more because they'll be like, you know what? We are making changes. Things are changing. So let's do it. Because I really never saw them as effective, even on people on the left. I've never seen boycotts this effective that you've seen with Target. And it didn't happen. It happened very quickly. With Bud Light and Target, it was like within a month.
Well, what usually happens...
They had a massive drop, billions of lost revenue.
With liberals, what usually happens is they threaten a boycott and a company caves. There's never a boycott.
Right.
This was, okay, we're going to boycott. They said, screw you, we're still going to do this.
Fox News, another one.
And then the boycott happens and they lose billions of dollars. It's never happened before.
Well,
like this.
One thing you could say about conservatives, which I don't think you could say about liberals, is conservatives, for the most part, have conviction. And they have very strong moral compasses, which liberals do not have. And I think their conservatives are religious and mostly Christian, or even like Orthodox Jewish, or have a religious base, and Muslim too. And they're very conservative in their morals. And I think when it comes to these issues, they're seeing their boycotts are working, and it's going to motivate them to do it again. And like I said, the effect is very quick and very drastic.
Absolutely.
And it's not turning. Usually with a boycott, it lasts like a week or whatever, and then people forget about it. This is still going on. Bud Light is never going to recover from this. I think this is a permanent damage thing that they are never going to be able to recover from.
Now, if you would like to support this podcast and all the content that I'm connected to, the radio show, my YouTube channel, and the Brian Craig Show podcast that I co-host with my wife, Kathy, a great way to do that is to go to mypillow.com and buy something with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane. When you do that, you're going to get great MyPillow products, whatever you're buying, and you're also supporting all the content that I'm connected to, and it's greatly appreciated. There are two specials I want to tell you about. One I've been talking about all week because this is amazing. The MyPillow My Slippers, as low as $25 a pair with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane at mypillow.com. They have a whole bunch of new sizes in and colors. They have smaller sizes for ladies and kids, and they have larger sizes for men, including wide. The big and wide sizes that a lot of guys were asking for, as low as $25 a pair with the promo code Kane. And then there's another great one, the 6-piece MyPillow towel set. Regularly is $99.98. Right now, just $29.88 with our promo code Kane at checkout. That's all colors, the 6-piece MyPillow towel set. These are the best towels I've ever used in my life. So go to mypillow.com. You can take advantage of all the specials at mypillow.com with our promo code Kane, Kane, not just the ones I highlight. But $29.88 for the 6-piece MyPillow towel set with our promo code Kane. That's incredible. And the MyPillow My Slippers as low as $25 a pair with our promo code Kane at checkout. Kane are great deals. We'll be right back.
Robert Allen Miltenberg invites you to time travel with him to the Roman future. His new novella, available at Amazon.com and Barnes & Noble. It's the golden age of Rome, a time of peace and prosperity. And Scadius Commodius Lavatorius is its greatest scientist. But for all he's achieved, one question haunts him. Will Rome survive the test of time? There's only one way to find out. Come along on this cosmic romp of an adventure. See if you can read the signs any better than a brilliant scientist can. Prediction, science fiction, allegory, national glory. This is a satire at its most gladiatorial. Center stage in the Circus Maximus of your mind. A story of time machines and timeless politics, strange Roman cuisine and gambling parlor tricks, spinning gold and crossing the river Styx. That's the Roman future. Available on Kindle and paperback. Go to Amazon or Barnes & Noble now and visit The Roman Future by Robert Allen Miltenberg today. January 28th, 1986. That's the day the Challenger exploded. The truth surrounding this tragic event has remained shrouded in mystery. But now, author Eldon Howard uncovers the untold story of Mike, a stowaway whose presence aboard the Challenger raises countless questions. In the book, The Eighth Astronaut, available on Amazon. Who was Mike? Was he a hero? One of the courageous individuals who answered the call beyond duty? Or a criminal with a dark agenda? Discover the shocking secrets that have been hidden for decades. What compelled Mike to infiltrate NASA and conceal himself on board the Space Shuttle Challenger? How did he survive in a hidden compartment? And what happened to him after the accident? The Eighth Astronaut explores these perplexing mysteries and more. Mike's actions challenge our understanding of the tragedy and its aftermath. The Eighth Astronaut is a thought-provoking narrative that will leave you questioning the true nature of heroism and the boundaries of human determination. Embark on a journey of exploration and discover a story that will forever change your perception of the Challenger tragedy. And order your copy of The Eighth Astronaut from author Eldon Howard on Amazon. Get cozy, grab a cuddly friend, and curl up with your copy of Happiness Came with a Cat, a story from author Cynthia Starr. The long-haired, dandruff-ridden cat wasn't Cynthia's dream for a new family pet. Soon after, Cynthia's life meets a dramatic turning point, leaving her broken and hopeless. Follow the true story of how she nearly died of a broken heart, struggled with depression, and learned from her cat to be truly happy. Jinx teaches life-changing lessons that will warm your heart. Join Cynthia and Jinx in the book Happiness Came with a Cat, My Journey from Brokenness to Happiness, and the Life Lessons My Cat Taught Me, a true story from author Cynthia Starr, available in Kindle and paperback on Amazon.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. Okay, there's a huge story just broke. Literally just broke. And it broke during the last segment. I wanted to verify, so I was verifying it as we were talking, and I verified it during the break. This is huge, and this is an exclusive in the New York Post. CNN is up for sale. And
oh, my goodness.
Yeah, listen to this. This is in the New York Post right now, and pretty amazing. Speculation is growing that Warner Brothers Discovery will sell CNN in the coming year. Now, that's only part of the breaking news story because who's the top contender to buy? It's amazing. And this makes sense because CNN is not fixable. We talked about it. It's like Bud Light. That brand is so damaged by all the BS that they've been putting up with. CNN cannot be repaired. So it makes sense to unload it. It's not doing you any good. So speculation is growing that Warner Brothers Discovery will sell CNN in the coming year. And the struggling cable network's former CEO, Jeff Zucker, has emerged as a possible buyer.
He has that kind of money?
According to sources speaking to the New York Post. Well, it's not. I don't know how much money he has, but he has a lot of connections to people that have money.
Remember when they talked about Bill Cosby buying NBC?
Yeah. The 58-year-old Jeff Zucker is among the contenders to buy CNN, insiders say, despite the fact that he was fired from the company more than a year and a half ago over his undisclosed relationship with a ex-CNN person, Allison Golis. I don't know who that is. Sources say Zucker sees a big opportunity at CNN ahead of the 2024 presidential election after Chris Licht's strategy to revamp the network's programming to appeal to a more centrist audience flopped, sending ratings and ad revenue tumbling. Jeff is likely going to make a bid this fall to purchase CNN, says a source with knowledge. People who know Jeff Zucker add that buying and running CNN again would be the exec's ultimate revenge after they fired him.
Absolutely.
And this guy, he'll get together a bunch of angel investors and
hire back all his old cronies.
Yeah. And it very well could be bought by basically the Democrat Party. Whoever buys it, it'll be basically the Democrat Party.
So how would it be any different than what it is now?
It'll be worse.
I mean,
no, it'll be worse.
That's not going to fix their problem.
It's going to be worse. They don't want to fix their problem. They only care about a narrative. Yep. So what that means is that CNN is going to be bought by liberal Democrat activists.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen. And I'll tell you something. I think Fox is going to eventually be sold.
What if George Soros' son bought it? He could. He's got the money.
It's not that easy. When you buy something that has that much media influence, there's all kinds of government oversight with such things. And so if George Soros were looking to buy something like that,
his son, he's running his empire.
It's the same
now.
thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
There would be so much public outrage over it. I think the government wouldn't allow that. But whoever buys it is going to be a hardcore Democrat activist. So however liberal CNN has ever been, it'll be even more to the left.
Too bad Ted Turner, he's got dementia now. Too bad he can't buy it because I know now the last time they talked to him was 3 years ago. He's like 90, but apparently he has Alzheimer's. But when they did talk to him 3 years ago, even he was very disappointed in CNN and the way it's gotten so political, and he wishes it would go back to news. I don't think any of these news outlets will ever go back to just giving you straight news. I mean, I just think now when things like this thing with the submarine and that happen, you start seeing a more news angle. They actually have reporters and interview people, and it gets off politics. And you don't see that leaning to the left or to the right, and they get more focused on a news story. And that's when I like to watch the news. But I don't think these networks will ever go back to not being political hacks for the right or for the left or the deep state or whatever you want to call it, because they realize the power in what they're doing and how they're swaying people's minds. You were talking to Steve this morning, and he's back watching Fox News, and how he's just so depressed and it gets him all upset. I remember my stepmother, who's very conservative. I mean, she's like super MAGA. And she even volunteers for the election polls and everything. She was watching Glenn Beck all the time. She loved Glenn Beck. And she would watch him, and she told me, she said, I watch him, but I get so anxious and worried about things. Yeah. And she said, I have to keep watching just to keep it, like, they make you feel like you have to keep watching to keep an eye on things. And that is all done by design. They wanted you to come back and back more and more to check on things, to have that feeling of control over what's going on. And whether you watch it or not, it's not going to make a damn bit of difference. So I told her, I mean, she was like losing sleep at night. And I said, just stop watching. Like, oh no, I got to watch him. Yeah. I got to see what's happening, what's going on. Yeah. I watch the local news now, and that's pretty much all I watch for news. And they cover everything that you need to know. If anything's happening that's catastrophic, like this Titanic thing, they cover that. They cover the weather, all this stuff. That's what I watch at 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, and I enjoy it. But the national news, I think a lot of people are pretty much over it, because they're so political. They have such a bent.
We don't watch a lot of TV. We watch apps that are connected to our TV.
Yeah.
I probably watch more than anything else YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube. If I watch anything, I watch a lot of YouTube.
Yeah, you're addicted to
and
YouTube.
And there's a couple things I do like binge watching. I haven't binge watched in a while. I watch Star Trek, But the cable news, I'm so glad they're in self-destruct mode. And these liberal jokers that are going to end up buying CNN, whoever it is, if it's Zucker or whoever, they're buying something that is just not going anywhere. I predicted, and I think I've been proven right. When Fox News dropped Tucker Carlson, that was the end of the relevancy of cable news in this country, because I agree. There was a big exodus from Fox News, and a lot of people went back mainly because of Tucker, and they lost trust. They regained it a little bit with Tucker, and then when people do not trust the news anymore, especially conservatives. Conservatives do not trust anything, and I get it. I was never a conspiracy theorist ever, and I believe most of them now. I was talking to a caller the other day. And I said, and I'm not kidding about this. I'm really legitimately starting to question the moon landings. And it pains me to say that. I've met astronauts and I've met Apollo astronauts.
Don't they say on X-Files, what do they say? Question everything, or what's that from?
Yeah. You never know. I've met Apollo astronauts that have said they've gone to the moon. And
do you think they're really going to come forward and tell everybody they're frauds? And be the laughing stock?
Well,
of course not.
The only thing that gives me any doubt, as opposed to, instead of, based on the way the government's behaved, I could easily just say I don't believe it. The only thing that has me still believing it more than not believing it, I'm questioning it now, but, is that the government is so incompetent, and there's so many people involved in the space program, it's hard for me to believe that they could keep a secret like this for 50 years.
No, I know it's not hard for me, because they don't want to go down in history that way. Those guys, if it's not true that they didn't go, they don't want to go down in history that they were part of some big lie. They'll take that to their grave. Are you kidding me? Whether it's true or not, but I know it's like, you never know. I mean, I don't think we're ever going to find out the truth on that. But
if they can't get guys out of the ocean and on the planet Earth, how they go to another one? And they're talking about SpaceX and others going to the moon.
Yeah.
If
they should,
this is just my thoughts, okay? Yeah. If one of these guys are going to the moon, they should go to the original landing site and show us that what's there. And I think there's so much technology today that I don't think they could fake it. I think there's so much technology on the Earth that we could tell if they were there or not for real. So if they went to the moon...
But you did see the rocket leave. You saw the rocket leave the pad. I mean...
It could be still flying through space.
No. I think they really went, because they had the rocket take off.
Probably.
Everybody witnessed that. It was on TV.
This is what
I think they did.
This thing with the submarine this week, I think it was shocking to people. And frankly, I was a little shocked that the United States Navy didn't fly in with some submarine that could be down there at the wreck. And then we find out that the Navy doesn't have the ability to do a rescue at that level.
They can only go 1,000 feet.
Yeah, they don't have submarines that can go down that way. Maybe some small 1 or 2 man, things. And the moon landings, Kathy, were over 50 years ago. So the technology they had then was so primitive. I think about this. 50 years before the moon landing, it was 1919. So,
but what about Apollo 13? All that happened. I mean, you had other ventures into space.
So they
didn't fake that too.
I mean, who knows? Well, the Apollo 13 didn't land on the moon.
I know, but
still.
They
went to the moon and back, supposedly, based on technology that's over 50 years old, which I don't even know if that's possible. And they haven't gone back since, right? They haven't gone back.
That's weird.
So there's something fishy going on there. And I never questioned it until I've seen how the government operates with Trump. The government and scientists do nothing but lie to us. They do nothing but lie to us.
Yeah, did you see yesterday was the day that Greta Thunberg predicted would be the beginning of the end of the world?
Yeah, I knew that.
Why are people listening to a freaking 12-year-old?
I knew that yesterday, and I didn't say it on the air because I didn't think it was responsible to say, well, today was the day that the Earth is supposed to end, according to Greta Thunberg, because that could freak some people out. But,
Well, now you can, I guess, because the day's over. I guess so now it's okay to talk
I saw her recently. She is grown up.
Yeah.
She's just taller, older, and still angry.
Yeah.
But, all the predictions of the climate alarmist, none of them have come true, and that
because climate change is a myth.
Yeah,
and the reason it's made up is because it's an excuse that the left uses, and that not just the left, that leaders around the world. It's an excuse that they use to push their agenda. Like now they're saying that migrants are a victim of climate change. They say that to justify all this immigration.
Mm-hmm.
They use it as a justification, as an excuse for things to happen and for to say, well, this is why we're doing it. They can't come out and tell you the real reason. So instead they tell you, oh, it's because of global warming and this and that. It's a bunch of nonsense. And maybe someday, 100 years from now, 200 years from now, people will realize, well, AOC's countdown to the end of the world is coming up soon, too. She gave us 12 years about, 6-7 years ago? When did she come on the scene?
Yeah.
So we're about halfway through that.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, if you watch An Inconvenient Truth, which came out 20 years ago, I'm sure by now, all of Florida should be underwater by now, according to Al Gore.
True.
None of these predictions come true because it's all baloney.
Now, I want to take a moment to thank all of our Patreon supporters for your support. Thank you all. And if you would like to become a patron of the program, there is a link in the episode description, and there's also a direct link on my website, briancraigshow.com. Our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout-out on every episode. So the names you'll hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, ETW, Chuck D, Pamela, Rick, Nick, Wesley, Macho, Rome, Wisconsin, Mike P, Melissa, Richard, David, Arctic Fox, John, Paulette, and Carlos. These are our top Patreon supporters. Couple quick things I just want to mention before we go. This is one that's been going on for a while, and we have not mentioned it. The actor Julian Sands went missing months ago, and he's still missing. And it's a really sad thing. He is a fine actor, and
I love him.
And it's just a sad thing. And if you haven't followed that story, it's a sad one. And what really upsets me is that Julian Sands hasn't gotten really anyone talking about him in all the months he's been missing. He went for a walk and nobody saw him again. And
I wonder what happened.
He was a very big actor for a while. We saw him in Oxford Blues not long ago.
He was in that. I think his biggest movie he did was Arachnophobia because he was the lead, and he was very good in that. Yeah. It was a very good movie about the spiders, but he never really became like a super. People know who he is, but he never became like super famous. But Arachnophobia, he was in A Room with a View. I think that's the one where they film in Florence. I watched it because I lived in Florence, so that was a nice movie with Helena Bonham Carter, and that's a book. And he was in, like you said, what was the one you mentioned?
Oxford Blues.
Oxford Blues. He was very good in that. So he's a good actor, always a handsome guy. But yeah, he went for a walk. And any
my
update
goodness,
on that?
no updates. His family's calling for help, and oh my goodness,
been like about a year.
And one other thing too, I'm still trying to sell the MAGA Scooter 1. I bought a new scooter. I got a nice one. Yeah, the MAGA Scooter 2.0, which I've shown on YouTube once, maybe twice, but I think just once. It's rainy season in Florida. So I can't ride it all that often because of the weather. It rains every afternoon.
It's raining every day now.
And I've been trying to sell the MAGA Scooter 1 for, I don't know, Kathy, 2 months, 6 weeks.
Well, when did we get the?
I don't know. It's been a while. And every single person, and I did place ads in Craigslist, and that was just a mess.
Yeah.
I put an ad on Facebook. I've done some ads. I have not gotten a call. Well, yeah, the reason I thought about this, I got a text message a few seconds ago while we were talking. I have not gotten a call or a text message from a normal person who wanted to buy my scooter, and I've heard from a lot of people.
Yeah.
One guy texted me yesterday, and it's always the same thing. Is the scooter still for sale? And I say yes. And they said, when can I come look at it? And I'll ask them where they're located. And because I want to meet them somewhere. I don't want anybody coming to the house. This guy yesterday, he said, well, what's your address? And I said, well, I'll meet you somewhere. We live in the same city, so he said. And I said, well, what part of town are you in? And he says, what does it matter? I can drive anywhere. He wouldn't, I told you guys a while back, there was one guy who was so strange and scary, who was trying to get me to meet him in an industrial neighborhood at weird times, and I'm like, I can't do that. And he texted me a photograph of a stack of $100 bills spread out on a very weird bedspread. It looked like it was in some hooker hotel or something. I showed everybody on YouTube. It was
like velvet or something.
Velvet, yeah, exactly. A velvet. It was.
Yeah, God.
And
that was bizarre. Yeah, it seems to be a very sketchy endeavor.
So the reason I haven't sold it, because I could sell it to any of these people, is everyone that's called me, I feel is so sketch that I'm going to get jacked when I meet them. I haven't met one person that. There's an auto tag agency with an insurance company that's in our neighborhood. So I have one requirement. Meet me there, right? Meet me there. I'll ride the scooter there, and no one will meet me there.
Yeah. If anybody has advice, because I am so sick of dealing with this and hearing
Well,
about
it's in the garage.
It's never ending.
It's taking up the garage.
And we just can't seem to find it. I wanted to donate it. I did contact a company, and they never called me back.
It's a nice scooter.
We can't find anybody in our family to give it to. We tried to give it away.
It's very nice.
It's very nice.
And it only has just over 1,000 miles on it. Yeah. Can you believe it has 1,057? I'm not trying to sell it to you guys, but it has like 1,054 miles on it, and it looks good.
Yeah.
And I just had a bunch of stuff done to it. It's got new tires and everything. I got a new oil pump on, and
if you could just leave it on the side of the road with the keys and just tell somebody just to take it off your hands.
You know what it is? The internet is so sketchy, and you advertise such things. You advertise things like this on the internet, and I've heard from so many weirdos. Every single person that's contacted me has creeped me out.
Well, what is their motivation? Like, what are they trying to accomplish here? These creepy people.
Rob me? I don't know. I don't want to find out. Well, anyway, guys, on that note, it's time for us to sign off. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll talk to you next time.